Hey all, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. You students of the Civil War know that Memorial Day has its origins in 1868 with Decoration Day, which commemorated U.S. soldiers who lost their lives in 4 years of our Civil War. The scale of that loss, 750,000 dead, or 7.5 million in today's population, scarred almost every family. No one was untouched by the enormous loss of the flower of a generation. And placing flowers on the graves of those who perished was a way to remember and honor the generation of young, volunteer, citizen soldiers who laid down their lives for our country. I want to read to you an essay in the May 1869 issue of the Dartmouth magazine. It reminds us that the enormous number of sleeping patriots, as the writer, a veteran identified only by the letter D, calls the dead, from those interred in hometown and national cemeteries to others in solitary, unmarked graves strewn across the southern states. So here we go. The title of this essay is simply Decoration Day. The custom of annually setting apart a day for decorating the graves of those who fell in our last great contest for liberty and law may now be regarded as fixed, and it seems that no tribute of respect which surviving comrades or a grateful people can render to the memory of those who fell in the fierce struggle could be more appropriate, and no ceremony could be so touchingly beautiful as that of strewing their graves with spring flowers. It is like consecrating to the memories the first and fairest, the sweetest and most lovely of nature's yearly gifts. Besides being a ceremony so appropriate and beautiful in itself, it is one which is within the reach of all and in which all may participate. Even among those who dwelt securely among the peaceful valleys of New England during those years of bloody conflict, there are few indeed who do not mourn for some loved one who now sleeps in a soldier's grave, and how comforting, as well as fitting, to place upon the green mound which covers the sacred dust those lovely spring flowers so emblematic of their early death. But for those who endured, in common with these sleeping patriots, the weary marches, the sleepless, toiling nights, the fierce shock of battle, and the more dreaded scenes and sufferings of the hospital, these ceremonies have a peculiar interest. To them, the day brings back the memories of comrades tried and true, and they recall, as if it were but yesterday, their last confiding words, the circumstances of their death, and the lonely graves where they laid them down to their last long rest. The remains of thousands who slept beneath soil moistened by their own blood, and of other thousands who died in hospitals, have been collected from hundreds of battlefields and burial grounds and interred in national cemeteries, or placed beside their fathers in the quiet churchyards of their native towns. And to these resting places of the dead will friends and comrades annually repair on Decoration Day to strew fresh flowers upon the graves in token of their grateful remembrance. But many a lone sleeper lies still undisturbed in his solitary grave, unknown save to the comrades who may have performed the last sad rites. And many a fond mother, devoted wife, and loving sister will long in vain to know the place where their loved ones sleep. After 2 long months in midsummer among the deadly swamps of the Yazoo district, during which time disease had thinned our ranks vastly more than had the bullets of the enemy, we gladly bade adieu to the scenes and sufferings where many of our comrades had ended their days and embarked for a trip up the Mississippi to rejoin the forces in East Tennessee. We soon learned that an unwelcome guest had taken passage with us, for during the first day of our trip, insatiable death had set his icy seal upon 2 of our number. As the twilight deepened into darkness and the black pall of a moonless night settled over us, the boat cast her anchor to wait the return of day, and we bore to their last resting places the lifeless forms of our comrades. How little like we call a funeral was that silent burial. Their shrouds were their well-worn uniforms. Their coffins were such as could be hastily improvised on board the boat, and by the dim light of a single lantern, we conveyed them in a small skiff across the dark surface of the great river, and thence a short distance into the gloomy solitude of the forest. No words were spoken as we hollowed the wide grave in soil, never before disturbed by man, and consigned the forms of our departed comrades to Mother Earth. No prayers were uttered save those which rose inaudible from saddened hearts, and no sound broke the solemn stillness of the gloomy forest save the harsh notes of the katydids and the mournful song of a solitary whippoorwill. A simple board on which were penciled the names, company, and regiment of the sleepers was placed at the head of the grave, though we knew that long ere the solitude of the place would be again broken by human footfall, this also would have moldered to dust. Then, in silence and sadness, we returned to the boat. But greedy death remained not in the dark forest to guard his sleeping victims, and the gloom of 3 successive nights brought for us the same sad duties. And now, when summer returns with its wealth of beauty, and we go forth to strew flowers upon the graves of our sleeping comrades, we think of the lone graves in the solitude of the great Mississippi forests, where scarcely a ray of sunlight can penetrate the dense foliage to call into life a single pale flower. Neither prattling childhood, nor loving womanhood, nor strong manhood, nor decrepit age with gray hairs and tottering steps will ever deck those lonely graves with flowers or shed upon them a single tear. But when the present generation shall have passed away, and Gettysburg and Vicksburg shall become to our descendants what Bunker's Hill and Yorktown now are to us, the solitude of that forest will still be unbroken, and the long, drooping tresses of Spanish moss will still swing mournfully to and fro above the forgotten sleepers, keeping time to the sighing breezes and the low rippling murmur of the Father of waters flowing unvexed to the sea. So there you have a reflection on Decoration Day, on the loss of sleeping patriots, not the ones in so much the ones in national cemeteries and local churchyards, the ones that received the flowers that were strewn over their graves, but those who were more or less lost, as the ones described here in a forest in the Mississippi, aside somewhere off the banks in the forests along the Mississippi River. So thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail.